Today, I wanted to start out with something a little on the brighter side. I'm in front of the Livingston, California mural, and I want to point out that some of the rose bushes that have been planted by our volunteers are blooming.
Enforcement of the stay-home order. A few questions and answers from the City Council special meeting of 3/26/2020. It's only been a few days since the City Council adopted a resolution by a 4-0 vote requiring all individuals within the city to comply with the Merced County Health Officer's order to stay at home and establishing penalties for violating that order. While the majority of Livingston's residents seem to be abiding by the social distancing requirements of the order, according to the city manager of Livingston, there were those few who were not, hence the need for this resolution. I am seeing several posts coming across my Facebook feed that indicate either confusion about what the stay-home order means or are afraid they will be harassed by law enforcement while being out and about for a legitimate reason. What I present to you today is sort of a Cliff Notes version of the discussion that took place at the March 26, 2020 City Council meeting. Physically present at the meeting were Mayor Samra, Council Member Aguilar, Council Member Batista, and the City Manager. Participating by phone were Mayor Pro Tem Garcia and the City Attorney, as well as a few members of the community. Because of social distancing, no residents were allowed within the chamber itself. However, you could participate by phone. The mix of the phone and video system within the chamber itself did create some distortion and feedback. So when we get to the part of this video where I'm actually showing clips from the meeting, there's going to be quite a bit of distortion, and I'm really sorry about that. With the system that I have now, all I can do is the most basic of editing, so please bear with me. What I am attempting to do here is distill a 1.5-hour discussion into something shorter that answers the following questions. How do we justify this? Is it to educate the public? Will this be a tool to stop everyone? What is meant by administrative citation? Do the officers know what's really going on? Do you want officers stopping people just for violations of the order? Should people be concerned they are going to be stopped and unable to prove they're out of their home for a legitimate reason? Will anybody's rights be infringed? Will an officer's action need to be cleared through a supervisor? What does it mean to approach someone for suspected non-compliance? Will this turn us into a police state? And what makes this order go away? If you should like to watch the entire council meeting, I'll leave a link to it in the description below this video.
If people are already home doing shelter in place and they don't want to be out and about in the community, but we have just those few, how are we justifying that we're going to do this to the whole of the community and not just that one or two people or groups of people?
Yeah, very good question. So again, there has to be a level of trust in all of this. And we're entrusting all of our lives. Public safety, as you know, is the responsibility not just of the police department, it's the responsibility of all of us. And so it's together that we're going to get there. And what we're trying to do is minimize the amount of individuals that are going to be exposed to this. It's not if there is going to be, there will be. but what we're trying to do is minimize it. We want to make sure our curve hasn't even started. We're probably about 2 weeks away, according to the experts, from the East Coast. And you can see the numbers, so now it's 4, in 2 or 3 days, it'll be 8, and then 16, and before you know it, it's a lot more. So, again, the majority of the population is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Social distancing, going to their specific areas and going back for their own safety. And so the rest of the population is not going to be penalized for less than 1% of the folks that are not going to listen. And so the officers are going to be, and not just the officers, all of us, okay, are going to be kind of looking to see, who's out there, who's walking around. They're clearly not going to work, not going to do official business. It's non-essential, and they're not following orders. And it's those individuals then that will be approached once, approached twice, and after that, if they don't listen, then we have a mechanism to try to make them. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to listen. Even if we issue a administrative citation, we can issue them another one. But the whole idea here is to have a little more teeth, if you will, in order and educate the public so that they understand the dynamics. That this is very, very serious. So
it's the way I was seeing it is more of having those tools, like our attorney stated, to approach those that aren't really necessarily following, or there's questions about certain group of people not following those guidelines. And to me, the way I see it, and it seems like our chief is saying that it's a way of educating our public or reaching, approaching them, making sure they understand the severity of the situation. But yeah, honestly, I do have additional questions, but to me, that's what I would like to see it being used, where if they're approached, they're educated, and it's the problem is resolved, and that's it. But if continue, for example, a business that is not an essential business continues to open day after day after day, and there's a group of people going to that business and placing people in danger, then, that's why this tool will be there to be used in that type of situation. I don't foresee, and I would not like to see the police going street by street, approaching every single citizen out there, questioning them, where they're going, what they're doing. I don't foresee it going that route.
That we are not going to use this as a tool to stop everyone. We're not. That's not what it's meant for. And I won't allow it. That's not what we're supposed to be out there for. If anything, we're going to be out there to educate the public, not stop them and do anything to them. So that's our purpose.
Administrative citation, can you explain more about what is meant by administrative citation so our public knows?
Councilwoman, good question again. So the administrative citation is the best analogy that I can use for you is kind of like code enforcement. So a code enforcement officer, so if you have, let's say you have an abandoned vehicle, you're not upkeeping it, or you have you haven't taken care of your weeds on in the open field, or you have a pile of garbage in front of your house, it's the same. It's administrative citation. And so the administrative citation is something that we keep here locally. We're not going to send it off to anywhere else. We're going to address it all locally. And so, again, if somebody does receive an administrative citation, they can ask for a hearing or a meeting with me, go over the situation, and if I deem that the administrative citation is not warranted or it's not necessary, we'll waive it. But again, there's a balance there, so that we have procedures to make things fair. So it's not just you got it and that's it.
somebody had said that this thing's been going on for a few weeks now, and I can't guarantee anything, but we have not had one incident. There's been a stay-at-home order for, I think, probably about 3 weeks, but we have not had one incident. So my officers know really what's going on, and I'm going to continue to educate them. And they also, like you were asking, if we're educating, yes, my officers actually have pamphlets that they hand out to the citizens that they come in contact, not for that, just daily contacts for whatever. They hand that out, as well as much as we put out on social media as well. So we are educating the public as much as possible, and we're going to continue to do it. I already told my officers I don't want them stopping anybody for that sole purpose. It isn't going to happen. If I find out that it's happened, I'll deal with it. All our guys have in-car video. They have videos on themselves. So if I see any misconduct, I'm going to deal with it, and it's only going to happen once. But right now, I have a standing order. They are not to be pulling cars over just for that sole purpose.
There are people who are concerned that they are going to be stopped and unable to prove that the activity that they're doing is one of the exempt activity according to the county's documentation.
Do you have any other questions, Ms. Rodriguez?
Well, just if you could bullet point it really, keep it real simple. I mean, this meeting has been going on for, almost an hour. And if we could have a short bullet point by bullet point, this is what we're going to do. Yes, this is what we're going to do. No, you don't have to worry about this. Explanation as to what enforcement looks like, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes. Catherine, thank you very much for being on the call. So I'll tackle the first one, and then, of course, Mr. Soria can jump in. Of course, it would be very helpful, and actually a lot of businesses, especially like the schools, the clinics, and so forth, you know, they have, or the Livingston Farmers Association and some of the other buildings, they've actually issued IDs or some type of identification cards or issued a letter. And of course, if you have that and you're heading to work, it's pretty easy. I mean, you guys can show that. Officers are not going to, question you, etc. For those who do not have one, again, all you have to do is communicate to them that what you're doing and where you're heading and stuff. And so have a dialogue with them. Again, they're not going to issue a citation on the first or second. The whole idea here is, again, to educate the public and let everybody know that, that they need to protect themselves and protect others. And so if you can get a letter from your employer, that'd be great just to have in your vehicle. Wherever you're going. But again, if you remember, Captain Soria said he's not going to just be stopping individuals just because. I mean, again, they're going to be more looking at individuals that are, hanging around and several individuals in the park, or they're playing soccer on the soccer field, or they're congregated somewhere and it's not necessarily related to any essential business. It's pretty clear. I mean, if you drive around town, you'll be able to without being an officer, to figure out whether or not they're complying with the order or not. And so again, we're going to continue to educate folks. Our city hall continues to conduct business. You guys can call, ask questions from me. You guys, we are here to protect you, and it's not going to. It's not, again, like I said, the safety of all is in our hands. So it's not in one particular department's hands, it's in all our departments. So the other question that she mentioned was in relation to putting together some type of bullet points and stuff. We'll talk about it, and we'll look to see if we can put it out something that folks, give some people some examples, so that way they get educated and they can start to decipher things. So yes.
Yeah, just so you know, I am aware of that order as well. My officers will not be, but they're not going to be stopping anybody in their vehicles just randomly driving around. So, and they know, and I'm going to make sure that they are aware of each and everything that is stated in the county order, that they're aware of that, and they do not infringe on that whatsoever. So, I've already told them already. I will tell them again, and as you probably don't know, but my sergeants, my corporals, every day go over with my officers what they can and can't do, because we do not want to infringe on anybody's rights. There's a lot of things that the county allows people still to do on a daily basis. I am not in any way going to restrict that. I am going to abide by what the county has put out. I'm going to make sure that my officers are clearly aware of all those things that are allowed to, the people are allowed to do. Before we take any action, if any action at all, they're going to have to make sure that they actually know that the person out is doing something other than what the county has allowed. So they have to know that. The other thing is, they're going to, if any type of enforcement action is taken, they're going to have to clear it through the supervisor before we do that. So I want to get a second opinion. If they got to call me at home, whatever it may be, I want to make sure that they are doing everything right. We are not going to be out there just to go and start talking to people, telling people to go home, anything like that. For the most part, you see, we drive around, and the officers that I'm talking to every day, they basically, the people here are abiding by what they're supposed to be doing. I hope it doesn't come to this point where we actually have to give any administrative citations or do anything like that, but it may come to that. We don't know. So with putting this in place, we have it there, so it's always better to be prepared if in fact we have to go there. And that's all I have at this point in time.
What does that look like? You said that they would approach. How does that look? In order for them to find out what our residents are doing, or certain citizens that they feel are not complying. What does that look like? What does that mean for our citizens?
If it comes to the point where we feel that somebody's out and they are not abiding by the county's orders, then we'll ask what they're doing. It hasn't come to that point yet, and we see people out every day. So for the most part, this is a little community. We do know a lot of the people. That's probably one of the benefits of having that small community. So we haven't been asking people, what are you doing out or anything like that. And I want to keep it that way if possible. But it may be where you see the continuous person over and over, one time, two times, where the officer may have to ask. And that's all I want him to do, is ask. It's just like doing anything else. I don't want to detain them. I don't want to do anything like ask for ID or anything like that. I just want to ask, hey, what, you guys going somewhere? Just like we normally do all the time. We actually can approach people.
Yeah. So let me just jump in real quick just to give you an example. So for instance, if you have a group of individuals, 3, 4, or 5 individuals, they're not implementing the social distancing requirements of 6 feet, and they're clearly not going to the to the clinic, they're not going to the pharmacy, they're not going to the grocery store, and they're not going to work. So then I anticipate that an officer can say, hey, where are you guys going? What are you guys doing? If they can identify what they're doing and they're implementing the social distance requirements and stuff, nobody's going to bother them. It's when we start to see, folks using the play structures or playing at the parks, not implementing the social distancing, and they're out there clearly not going to a specific destination. If they're just out and about, exercising in front of the front yard, walking in the park, implementing the social distancing, going to work, nobody's going to do anything in that regard. Okay, it's when if you have a number of individuals that are together, they're clearly out there, doesn't fit in any of those categories, then they'll be approached, number one. Number two, if it's a business, it's pretty clear. The business is a hair salon and they've been asked to close and they don't close, then we have the ability, we're basically telling everybody ahead of time here that we intend to issue a citation, an administrative citation, if they don't comply or revoke their business license. Now, whether or not we do that, we don't want to go there, but at least we're notifying folks, and we have the ability now, but we're using this platform to educate everybody so they wouldn't be surprised.
What I was saying is the order from the governor has been in effect for stay at home or shelter in place for about a week. But as time progresses, people are going to become more antsy in trying to go out there because none of us really want to be in the house. I've been in the house for a week and I don't like it, but I'm doing it for my family, for my parents, and for others' parents too. And this will also give everybody, a little bit more information, and also for us to start educating people too, in my view. Now, there were some concerns that we may become a police state. No, this doesn't do that. One thing we have in Livingston, I hope everybody agrees with this, or for most part at least, is there has been, for most part, anytime citizens have concerns, I think your council has been very easily accessible. So you have been able to call us. We have been able to address the issue. At least we're trying, So I think we do have that. And I think also, and maybe Mr. Sanchez can do this, but when the county rescinds its order or the state, does this order also automatically set Mr. Sanchez? Can you answer that question for me?
If the county was to rescind this and the governor rescind it, would ours automatically rescind as well, or will we need to rescind it at that time?
You would automatically, as the director of the emergency council, or I believe that's the title under the municipal code, you would right away, the emergency would be gone. So if everything's rescinded, there's no official emergency anymore. So then all this goes away. And whether we have to just kind of do something just more of like the paperwork, we would look into that. But the reality is, if the emergency is lifted, then the findings aren't there to keep this going.
If you're subscribed to the channel already, you might want to check and make sure you're still subscribed so you're notified whenever a new video goes live. And subscribe if you're new. Until next time, this is the gardening snail of Livingston, California, because not every critter is hiding under a rock.